Thank you, Stephanie. Before I get into the third Sunday of our baggage series here, I wanted to share something that's going to be happening here at the end of this month. As elders, we have been talking about our live stream and specifically how it helps us to do what we have been called to do here at Northlake, which is to make disciples, and making disciples specifically through relationship. And back in pandemic, when we all couldn't be around in the building and things like this, we jumped in heavy and quickly to try and bridge that gap. And I'm so grateful for everybody who was able to help us to continue to communicate during that season. But we feel like we've come to the end of the season where we need to have like a live stream. In fact, we've gotten to the spot where we feel it's actually being counterproductive and pulling us away from relationship in pursuit of maybe independence. And we want to remove that like barrier or enabling of being able to stay home and be like, I'm going to mail it in and I don't really care about coming and seeing Jen. Jen, whatever. Carolyn, when she smiles at the front desk, I don't care. I just want to sit in my home and I want to drink my coffee, things like this. This is going opposite the direction that we have been given by God to make disciples, and we have to do that through relationship. We are not going to stop filming here on Sundays. That is going to continue. We are going to have an online stuff that is going to be happening, but our last live stream is actually going to be June 29th. Now, we haven't had a live stream last week or this week because we had a catastrophic failure of our system and it's being sent back and it's being repaired right now. So people are going to catch up online to this later, but I wanted to inform you that we got to this spot going, this is going in the opposite direction to what God has called us to do. So people who are going to be not able to come, we're still going to have some opportunities to be able to participate here on Sunday morning, specifically with the sermon portion. But we really want to encourage everybody who calls Northlake home to come and be in community, to come and say hello to people face to face, put clothes on, and have your morning coffee before you show up, but come and be part of here. Come and be part of community. Come and see people's faces and allow the love of the Holy Spirit, the love of Jesus to kind of fill in your space, because like we're going to talk about today, or like we've talked about through this series, shame really contributes to our running away and isolation. And I am not saying that by throwing any rocks. That rock boomerangs and hits me straight in the forehead, because when I get tired, when I get worn out and things like this, when I get hurt, I want to run away and hide as well. And yet in these moments is when we actually need to press in the most, and we need to run towards rather than away. And so this is a decision that we've made to keep on going this way. We're not going to stop, like I said, doing video. Devandis is upstairs doing that right now, so that people who weren't able to be here this morning can participate a little bit later on today with the sermon. All right, if you got questions, don't come talk to me. I don't want to answer them. Just kidding. Come talk to me. Come talk to one of the other elders, Steve Mattson specifically. I'm saying go talk to Steve and Ian, chair, vice chair. Go talk to them. They can field all the stuff. I'm leaving. I'm running away in isolation. Just kidding. As we've been walking through this series in baggage, looking at shame, it's looking at the stuff inside of us and shame-based environments that cause us great pain, great challenge, and a lot of stuff that we end up carrying with us, even unknowingly, through our lives. I've tried to make each and every single one of these sermons kind of being able to stand alone on themselves, but each one builds on the one before. So if you're first time jumping in with us today, go back and listen online, and you'll be able to see how some of these dots get to connect. And the reason that I wanted to go through this specifically was because of how pervasive shame affects us inside the church. It's like the church gets shame on steroids. The rest of the world goes and walks through these shame behaviors and shame culture and kind of things like this, but when it enters into church, it gets supercharged. It's like For those who are car guys, it's nitrous to your race car. For all of you who are like, I have no idea what that meant, that's laughing gas for your car. It makes it go faster. So it's the same thing, but like it's shame on steroids here. So let me ask you the question this week as we process through this, because I don't want to just like dump on us. I want us to be freed from this. I want us to be able to put down the baggage that we carry around in our life, even though we don't know that we're maybe carrying it around. So let me ask a question, introduce it this week in this way. Have you ever been in a place, whether it was work, whether it was home, whether it was friends, or maybe even church, where being vulnerable felt really, really dangerous? If you have never felt that, go ahead and put your hand up, and we're all going to shame you into you're a liar. We've all felt this. I know this. I've talked to you. We felt these moments where like being vulnerable is a really dangerous thing. The consequence of saying what we're thinking or what we're feeling or what we're experiencing or how we failed paralyzes us and causes us to mask up often. Often that is the defining characteristic of what we will call a shame-based environment. A shame-based environment or shame-based system is where we are only as valuable as our performance. We're only as valuable as what we've just accomplished, the last sermon, the last project, the last thing, the last celebration, whatever it is we're measured by. We're only as valuable as the last thing we did. We must then constantly perform, constantly show up, and constantly do better, because the win was now the minimum standard for everything going forward. You're only as valuable as your performance in a shame-based system. Your mistakes in a shame-based system are punished with distance, not dialogue. In shame-based systems, your mistakes are punished by distance, not dialogue. In a shame-based system, love is conditional and acceptance is inconsistent. In other words, I have to be perfect to feel okay. I have to be perfect to feel like I'm okay. A writer, a pastor, a counselor named Jeff Van Vonderen, I quoted him last week, quote him again this week. In shame-based systems, he says, people learn to wear masks. They manage appearances, avoid honesty, and they live exhausted, trying to earn what God would freely give. Neediness, we talked about this in week 1. Neediness, we are all needy. We don't want to put that on shout, of course. We want to feel like we're very self-sufficient, especially in the West, and specifically in the U.S., where we're like, I have a really hard time asking for help, right? Asking for help is seen as way too much. But neediness, the longing of every human being, the need, the longing of every human person for acceptance, for worth, and for belonging causes us to feel cause us to feel like we are deficient and irreparably damaged, because we are never getting what we want what we need, what we feel like we need when we are trying to get it from other people. My wife is sitting over here, and so, not to put on a shout, or anything like that, but have you ever tried to get your spouse to fulfill all of your needs? Anybody in the room who's been married less than a day or more than a day found that to be successful? It's impossible to depend on Carla or even a group of people to meet all the things that I need. It's impossible. And so then I feel like I am irreparably damaged. I am deficient in myself, and I'm not okay because I have these needs that I constantly walk around with, and I feel like I'm a bad person because of them. Shame then exploits this, trapping us in these systems of whether it's our families or our workplace or our community that demand perfection in order for us to receive love. In shame environments or in shame systems, transparency is completely unsafe. To tell what's really going on in your head, to tell what's really going on in your heart, to tell what you're really walking through in life, it is completely unsafe. In that kind of environment, when somebody comes up and wants to give you correction, correction equals rejection in your head. So then you can't receive the correction, whether it was good intention or bad intention. You receive it in a way of like, you're rejecting me because you're not okay with me. You're telling me that I am not doing what I need to do. In these environments, then, grace is theoretical. It's something that's locked in our head. It's not something lived, and it's not something lived out. We say God gives us grace, but grace doesn't exist here for me, which is an incredible disconnect. An incredible disconnect. When I say I want grace for me, but I feel like I understand logically because someone told me that God does everything for my greatest good. But sometimes, man, it doesn't feel like it, and now I don't know what to do with it. It's not something I can live out. It's not something I can do something with right here, right now. Let me just say it this way. Be very, very blunt this morning. If God's grace can't be lived out right now, then it's not working for you and you should quit. Literally. Because God's grace is for now. God's grace is for here. God's grace transforms me right here and right now. And if I can't bridge the gap between my feelings and what God has done for me, I am going to be in constant conflict. Let me give you some examples. In a shame-based environment when it comes to church, a shame-based church is where appearances are more important than your heart. There's a reason why I frequently come dressed down on Sunday. I dressed up, can you tell, for Father's Day. I put on a collar. It's a communication thing, actually. I remember growing up in church where you came in your Sunday best. I get that. I know that. And there's some people who are like, man, those were the good old days. And I'm not talking about the dress. I'm talking about like so much was hidden under the I look good, therefore I am good. But inside, it's not good. In a shame-based environment, the way that things look are far more important than your heart. In a family, a shame-based environment is where emotions are shut down. You're unsafe to demonstrate emotions. You're unsafe to demonstrate the things that you are feeling. Now, I understand as guys, there's appropriate expectations culturally, and usually that means the only things that I am allowed to demonstrate are love and affection privately, because you can't do that publicly. Otherwise, someone's going to be like, ah. It's happening constantly in my house right now. Or you get to demonstrate anger. And those are the only two appropriate emotions that you get to say. What about all the other ones? A family where shame is in root here is where emotions get shut down. In a workplace, it's where failure means that you're disposable. If you don't succeed, it means your pink slip is coming. It means you're going to be written up. It means that something is going to happen and now you are out. So today I want to not just dig in and explain all these like shame-based things, because many of you are like, yeah, duh, this is the life that I live. Like, why are you peeling back the layers of this onion? It hurts. I want to unpack how to hear God's voice, not as a critic, but as a really good father. Because God is our good father. He's not our critic. But very, very frequently, we interact with the words that we see here in our Bibles as criticisms of us rather than encouragements and loving statements of how we should be and can be just the way that God has been towards us. I want to unpack how to hear God's voice, not as a critic, but as a father. Systems that embrace shame weigh us down with the baggage, but God's acceptance of us sets us free. Humans You and I, were created for connection. I just told you why we were kind of shutting down our live stream. We are created for connection. Now, I didn't ask Carla to say this, and so last week I kind of made her look bad, and I apologized to her profusely for making her look bad. Carla is like the most pure introvert I have ever met in my life. She's just like, you know what makes me super happy? Nobody. It's a book. It's a book and a fireplace and a hot cup of tea and you leaving me alone. No, just kidding. That makes her look bad, right? No, Carla thrives in this moment of like, I'm okay by myself. And that's okay. Now, if you go to Ryan, Pastor Ryan, we of course know that this does not work well with Ryan, and Ryan would be like, I will last for how many minutes? Not many. 0 minutes, Amanda says. 0 minutes. Regardless of where you are on the spectrum of introversion or extroversion, we were built for connection. Studies have shown that the damaging impact on infants when they lack connection. There's this lady, a therapist, family therapist, her name is Virginia Satir, and she has suggested recently that we need 4 hugs a day for survival. You need 4 hugs a day for survival. Just start running around hugging everybody right now, I dare you. You need this to survive. 4 hugs for survival, 8 just to maintain, and 12 to grow. We need connection. There's a whole lot of affection going on right in there, and it's making me feel awkward now. Shouldn't have said that. Another recent study has suggested that guys specifically need 2 guys' nights a week to maintain good mental health, good mental and physical health, and to combat loneliness and depression inside their own hearts. We need connection. Even if we are in a self-preservation focused isolation, because of some emotional wounds that we have walked through ourselves, we still desire a connection that we are protecting ourselves from. We desire the connection that we are saying, no, I don't want this because it's too scary. I want it when it's good, but I'm afraid because it's going to be bad. Because we are needy, we crave love, we crave value, we crave connection. Almost uniformly, we seek to meet these needs through family, through work, or through friends. Accept me, love me, value me, tell me I'm worth something, tell me I'm valuable, tell me I'm loved. And when these spaces demand perfection, or they demand silence, or they demand conformity to earn acceptance, or to confirm our worth, it becomes shame-based. Love held back as a reward, conditional, based on our behaviors. Shame-based environments only ever leave us feeling empty because we aren't accepted or loved for who we really are. Only God's unconditional love can truly satisfy our deep neediness. Let me show you this morning through a story, a parable that Jesus says in Luke chapter 15, verse 11. Luke 15 has this story of this guy that has a son. We commonly know this story as the story of the prodigal son. Tim Keller, a pastor who's passed away, but who spoke and had a church in New York City, did a big thing about this, where it's like this story isn't about the son so much as it is about the heart of the father, and it's a powerful, powerful thing. I would totally recommend going and reading his book called Prodigal God. Luke 15 says this, though, about this story. To illustrate the point further, Jesus told them this story. A man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, I want my share of your estate now before you die. So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. A few days later, this son packed all his belongings and moved to a distant land where he wasted all his money in wild living. Now, if you were a father here in the room and your son came up and was like, I want my inheritance now, give me my inheritance right now, how would you, dads in the room, respond to that? Why? Because it's essentially saying, I don't care about you, I just want your stuff. Give me your stuff, the stuff that I feel I'm owed. It's very selfish, it's very greedy. Everything else, Dad, I want none of you, I want all your stuff, now leave me alone. And he runs away. Now, maybe in your family or in your own life, you didn't do what the prodigal son did and say, Dad, I want all my stuff. I want all your stuff that is supposed to be mine, and I'm going to run away. But you still maybe ran away, or you had your own children run away from you. Many families have members who have repeated some version of this story. Parents whose hearts are then broken. Statements like, we didn't raise you to be like this. Families that disintegrate under the weight and the baggage of the consequences of somebody else's actions. The young man in this story doesn't want relationship with his father. He wants his father's stuff, and he chases the temporary satisfaction, the temporary validation of other people's approval. I now have all of this stuff, and I want your approval. I want you to respond to me. I want you to tell me that I'm good. I want you to tell me that I'm valuable. I want you to tell me that I'm worth something. I want you to tell me that I am acceptable. I want you to tell me that I am valuable. Look at all the stuff that I have, only to discover that when all of the stuff is spent and disappears, all of that validation is gone. It wasn't for him, it was about they wanted his stuff. He leaves then his good father's love, to pursue affection and attention based on his performance. Shame thrives in a system that's tied to our value and that ties our value to performance and acceptance. Because it reinforces repetitively, we aren't good enough. We will never be enough. We chase temporary approval rather than God's need-meeting unconditional love. Shame then, as a system, exists to control, to our famous Silver Fox Steve, our chairman of our elders, says, I want to manage expectations. Well, shame is not what Steve says. I want to manage our expectations. Shame says I want to control everything. I want to control it all, because if I don't control it all, then somebody's going to pop up and bite me, and it's going to hurt. So it uses things like rules, expectations, or silence that demand that we hide our flaws to be accepted. Love and acceptance that's based, or that it is reserved as a reward for the moments when we succeed. We get trapped in this fear of rejection then, reinforcing the lie that we are unworthy, because it's only when I succeed that I am lovable. No amount of personal effort is ever enough to overcome this cycle. There is no amount of trying harder. There is no amount of doing better. There is no amount of any of this that will ever change this inner challenge. It's never enough to overcome the cycle. No affirmation is ever enough to overcome the internal conflict of not feeling good enough. Ian and I were talking about this yesterday, and as we were talking about this, some of you have been very, very kind and very nice when I talk up here on stage, and you're like, man, that was great, or whatever else, or, something like this. If I constantly am walking through life thinking that I'm not a good speaker or I'm not good on stage, I really don't like being up here all that much. It kind of petrifies me, paranoids me, things like this, and it is what it is. But if I constantly then start walking through everything that God has told me that I need to do, which is be here, and I start going like, I'm not a good speaker, I'm not this, no amount of you saying, but Steve, you're such a good speaker, will ever overcome the belief in my own head, Steve, you're not a good speaker. Never. There is no amount of human effort that will ever break or overcome the cycle of shame that would exist inside my head. That's just a personal example. You can use your own examples. No affirmation is ever enough to overcome an internal conflict of not feeling good enough, by comparison measuring ourselves up to someone else. The story about the prodigal son continues. Let's jump to verse 14. About the time that the money ran out, a great famine swept over the land, and this younger son, began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him to work in fields to feed pigs, which is, from a Jewish context, that's not kosher, and therefore they're not to be touched, they're not to be participated with. You are now completely unclean. You have now taken like the worst job of the worst job, because now you're unclean. You can't be around anybody else because you're unclean. And the whole social structure that the law of Moses sets up for being clean to be around. This is as the story goes, this is an incredibly catastrophic story to be trying to communicate in the Jewish context. Everybody who's hearing the story understands how crazy and how desperate this son is now. The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was eating to feed the pigs looked good to him. Have you ever wanted to eat pig slop? You're not hungry, evidently. No one gave him anything. When he finally came to his senses, which is a strange statement at this point in the story, and yet some of us who are just stubborn and have chosen to learn the hard way often go through a lot of stuff before we finally recognize and are willing to say, I wish I had come to that conclusion sooner. When he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, at home, even the hired servants have food enough to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I'm going to go home to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. After all, I told you I wanted you dead, I wanted your stuff, and I ran away. Please take me on as a hired servant. This is a complex story. We could spend weeks and weeks and weeks digging through the layers of what's going on here, just psychologically and everything else. And I'm not a psychologist, right? There's a lot of stuff that's happening here. After reaching rock bottom, the son, fully overwhelmed by the cycle of control that he put into his own life, that he built for himself, that he ran out and tried to create by getting other people to fill his needs, he starts making deals in his head to try and regain even the lowest form of connection he feels he may have left. Familial responsibility. Maybe if I go back to my dad, even though I said I wanted him dead, even though I did everything to reject him, even though I did all these things that made him look so bad to everybody else, maybe if I go back and I say these things, maybe there will be some last little shred of compassion that my dad might have for me, and just to allow me to be here because he feels like he's obligated because I'm his son. In other words, please save me because you're related to me, which is an odd way to try and live. His shame, this young son's shame, reflects a cycle of control that equates failure with worthlessness, nearly keeping him from returning back to his father in the first place. But its unconditional love makes, what did I just do? It keeps him from returning. A cycle of control that exploits our neediness, promising belonging if we conform, but its unconditional love makes our emptiness even deeper, keeping us from grabbing a hold of God's unconditional acceptance. So the son says, I'll go back, but I'm not worthy. I'll go back, but I'm not worthy. I didn't plan to do this, but can I just stop here for a minute? Anybody feel like that this morning? Anybody coming to church on Sunday mornings going like, I'll come back, but I don't feel like I'm worthy. I got in a fight with my wife this week. I didn't, but you know.